Welcome to the 2020 Adams County Junior Livestock Sheep Show. We are starting with our junior showmen as they're entering the ring. Matt, they said the camera's not working.
Battery level high.
Alex, they're saying that the camera, they're not seeing things online. Could you check for us, please? Thank you. In the show ring at this time is our junior showman, ages 8 to 10 years old. They are showing any of their lambs that they have raised. They can be market lambs, they can be breeding sheep. They're being judged on how well they handle their lambs and present their lambs to the judge. We are currently in the ring with our junior sheep showman at the Adams County Fair.
There we go. Good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure to be back here today after a really nice goat show yesterday afternoon. Great place to start here in junior showmanship with a really nice competitive lineup. I think in particular we got 3 young people over here on my far right that kind of sorted themselves out pretty quickly. Sorry for the misunderstanding. I thought we had a couple heats in every age division, so that's why I kind of had them out in a different order. But I don't think it still hurt them because it kind of makes sure that everybody's still paying attention and doing everything as I move forward. I'm not going to make too many deals with them because since we're going youngest to oldest, I want to keep some things in check so that we can see if the intermediates and seniors know what I'm looking for as well. I think, though, one of the big words that I'm going to use here is consistency. The young lady on my far right who's going to be your champion just comes out with a little bit of a lethal attitude. I asked her if she was smiling underneath her mask, and she said no. So I think someone's taught her to be serious. We do have to find that borderline because I do like to have fun in the ring. So if I make a joke, at least try to laugh at it, even if you're trying to be serious. I'm all for being competitive, and I was probably the most stone-faced showman, so I guess I probably shouldn't be talking. But I do think as a show judge, I do enjoy that mentality to be softened just a little bit. I think in terms of the next young lady, she's another one that's really composed and does a super nice job. Every once in a while, maybe stretch her sheep out ever slightly too much or overbraced a little bit for me, but still, once again, presence and show ring mannerisms are really good. Young man comes into third based off of sheer control compared to the rest of the group as much as anything. Maybe every once in a while we're not quite lined up in the ring where we need to be, and we need to kind of present some things a little differently there, but I'm not going to get into things, like I said, in too much detail. I kind of talked to each one of them a little bit as well. The other 4 here, just a little bit more practice and work at home is going to do them as much good as anything. Let's commend your juniors here on a job well done.
Results of our junior showmanship. First in champion, congratulations, Taya Winden. Second, reserve champion, Lanny Weldon. Third, Evan Castina. Fourth, Logan Spurgeon. Yes, okay, sorry. Okay, fifth, Emma Grobel. Sixth, Iris Fledge. And seventh, Cody Harwell. Good job, juniors. Entering the ring at this time is our first heat of intermediate showmen. Ages 11 to 13. And again, they can show any of their project animals, whether it's a market lamb or a breeding. I'd like to introduce our judge today, Bill Disberger from Manhattan, Kansas. He's currently an associate broker and auction coordinator. He's a former judging coach of Hutchinson Community College, and he and his family raise club lambs outside of Manhattan.
Now we got drives. So in our intermediate division here, we got two heats that's coming in. We've got one that's already obviously finished here. I want to bring this trio of young ladies closest to me back here, and I'm going to discuss some things with them each when we get to that point of the final group. I've already discussed with the three young people over there. Really, it's just some fundamental things in terms of feet placement, mannerisms in the ring, and such that I discussed with them. So let's go ahead and congratulate all six of them on a job well done in our first class of intermediates.
Entering the ring at this time is our second heat of intermediate sheep showmen.
on our second heat of intermediates, we're going to keep 4 young people back. I just want to make sure I balance with the talent level of the first group. I think these 4 will be competitive with them, so we'll line them all up when we get done. I talked to the young people outside here with just a couple little things once again, but there's just a little details that could probably move them up pretty intently and pretty quickly as well. So let's go ahead and congratulate your second class of intermediates, though, as a whole.
Okay, entering the ring at this time is our championship drive for the intermediate showman.
Well, let's put our hands together for our intermediates out here. Awfully good set of showmen all the way through. I mean, realistically, you know, I turn most of them loose with a sheep of mine, and I think I would categorize them as what I call a typical group of intermediates that are competitive. They've kind of got it figured out, and like I mentioned to a couple of the young ladies in particular, they're about 85 to 90% there. If they could just do what they're doing the bulk of the time, all the time, they would be right on cue with where we're trying to be. And so I think that's probably the hardest thing for intermediates is being consistent and keeping it up for 2 heats and coming back for 10 minutes at a time. You know, that takes effort on you and your sheep's behalf in order to do that. And then I think the other thing that the young people are just about ready to figure out, which for this age bracket means that they're just about there as well, is what do I need to do to show my sheep to make him look better or her better than what she is? I think that's really important to take that next step and say, okay, my sheep's a little soft in its top line and wants to bow down. I kind of help bet with its belly a little bit. Or he's a little soft to the touch. I got to brace a little harder. Maybe I don't got to brace as much as one young man has down here with a sheep that kind of bows up on him. So there's some things like that that are next level deals that I don't expect in intermediates, but I think in this group we're just about ready to take that step. So I think that's really important. So once again, I went through and kind of ran through some things with each one of them just a little bit. I'm going to go congratulate them from 1 through 7 in this case. Since we got 7 out here, I think all of them do an awfully nice job. Let's give them one more big round of applause. And like I said, I'll go pick them out in order.
Results of our intermediate showmanship. First and champion, congratulations to Gabrielle Price. Second, reserve champion, Brooke Rowan. Third, Eleanor Carvis. Fourth, Nyla Pooley. Fifth, Avery Lawrence. Sixth, Ashley Clement. Seventh, Audrey Hardwell. Congratulations on a job well done. Entering the ring at this time is our first class of senior showmen.
This set of girls must be mean. They scared all the guys off again. I had that yesterday in the goat show, I think. So, with that being said, the 4 young ladies that are exiting first, they're going to get to come back for a second go round. I kind of mentioned a few things to the trio that's left out over here. It's just a really competitive set as much as anything. So, with that being said, let's congratulate all those in the first heat of your seniors.
Entering the ring at this time is our second heat of senior showmen.
In our second group of seniors, we're going to keep a trio of young ladies back here that are closer to me, just like we've done in the other classes. Not a whole lot to say otherwise. You know, that group on the other backside, once again, it's just a really competitive age division like it's supposed to be. So I've got a few things that I'll mention to the entire group once I get done with the final drive, so that way we're all on the same page. But other than that, it's just a really good group. I mentioned a couple things to those 4 young people that are going to get left out, but let's congratulate them all on a nice job here.
Entering the ring at this time is our final drive for Senior Showman. Again, our judge today is Bill Dushberger from Manhattan, Kansas.
Well, let's put our hands together for your senior young ladies in showmanship out here. It's an awfully good group, and I'll be honest, I think I've only got one other county fair in Colorado that would rival the quality of what these young people are as far as depth goes. I think I've been to a lot of county fairs over here, and then obviously judged my fair share across the country. That you're lucky if you have one or two that kind of manage the thing barely, let alone get through a whole show and have their sheep looking pretty nice. So I think that's the big difference here, is that we have 7 of them that I think are all pretty competent showmen. Their mannerisms and the way they handle their ring are good. Some of them have sheep that are easier to show than others. Some of it's for personality. Some of it's for just the way the sheep are built, because obviously we know sheep that are built right are easier to show in most cases. So it's not that you want to take anything from a showman that has that kind of sheep, but you also have to keep that in mind, that sometimes it's just easier to show a good one than it is an average one. And so sometimes those average sheep get a little bit of a benefit and not necessarily a detriment to the other ones. So with that being said, I've talked to each one of the young ladies. I could pick on them for little things all the way through, but once again, it's about consistency and who did the first round good plus the second go-round. Some of them did better in their individual heats. You'd think that within 10 minutes of each other, they'd all do pretty close. But 2 or 3 of them definitely improved or unimproved, actually, throughout those 2 rounds. So I think that's probably the big difference. There's 2 or 3 that are probably just a nickel more consistent for me. So we'll go through and congratulate them 1 down through 7 like we did in the other group. But let's go and give them a great big round of applause for a great job.
Once again, congratulations to this fine, great showman, senior showman. Congratulations in first place and champion, Caden Haley Mitchell. Second and reserve champion, Morgan Barba. Third place, Chloe Mucci. Fourth place, Heidi Price. Fifth place, Ophelia Pulley. Sixth place, Emma Waker. Seventh place, Mackenzie Jensen. We are going to roll right into our market classes. We will be starting with feeders. welcome to the 2020 Adams County Market Lamb Show. Entering the ring at this time is our feeder class. These lambs weigh from 87 pounds to 99 pounds.
In our feeder class here, obviously in my world, the way I look at these is always about projecting them and what would be the best sheep if we got them to an ideal market weight, whatever that may be. I think the young lady here in the red plaid in front of me has got the sheep that I'm going to project the most muscle shape at an end point of any of them. You study him out of his shoulder and his loin shape. When you get your hands on him, he's so much squarer and deeper both. And then I think relative to his size and weight, I think you get behind him, he has as much true shape and dimension as any of them. Then I think the final nail in the coffin to let him win is the structure. He's just so much better legged in terms of his angle to his hock and pastern, and so much better just in terms of his skeleton. The young lady sheep in second is the one that gives you a really neat look in terms of how long fronted he is. He's super tall at the top of his shoulder. He's extremely long from his last rib back. I don't know that he's necessarily bashful in terms of shape, but when you get your hands on his loin, it's quite a bit shallower, and he's not quite there yet in terms of how square it needs to be. So I think we need to fix him in terms of potential down the road with that. The young man's weather that comes out and is going to round out the class there is just a nice practical sheep. He's actually probably got the best body type of any of them. If you study his rib cage out of his shoulder and out of his top, he's not shy in terms of dimension of muscle, but he's pretty plain shaped in terms of the way he handles, and so I'd question that down the road as he matures out. Nice set of feeder lambs there for those three exhibitors. Let's give them a nice hand as we start off your lamb show.
Results of the feeder class. Congratulations in first place to Lanny Weldon. Second, Nyla Pulley. Third, Logan Spurgeon. Entering the show ring at this time is our Market Class 1. Lambs ranging in weight from 102 pounds to 124 pounds. If you are first or second, you will be pinned in one of the pins along the show ring. So please follow the ring steward as to which pin you go in if you are first or second.
A really nice set of lightweights to start off our market classes here. The young man on my far right, I think, has the weather that just dominates in terms of muscle shape, and you can tell that from the outside, and it only gets amplified as you get your hands on him. He's extremely bold racked, His loin shape is big. You get behind him, he's got as much dimension as power as anybody that we've got in here by some margin, actually. I think if you study him in terms of balance, build, and kind, I think, though, he's good enough in those areas, even though that's where I'd maybe be notch critical of him. He needs to set his neck a little higher on top of his shoulder. We'd like to angulate his shoulder and loosen his spine up ever so slightly, but I think his feet and leg skeleton, the way he moves, is adequate other than getting his top up. I think that's a nice sheep to win with. The real attractive lamb is in second. That natural colored whether there is super up fronted and basically has all the attributes that I just dinged the class winner on. He corrects those because he's just so much better from the side in just about every feature. But you get your hands on him, he's a little sharper over his rack. He's not as dimensional from the ground up, so he just kind of runs out of muscle to play with that class winner. But I think comparison to the next 3 or 4 where muscle advantages and disadvantages are not that dramatic, I think he's the one that needs to come into second just from a quality perspective. The sheep in third and fourth are very similar. I think in terms of balance and look, they're just kind of plain sheep, but if you study them in terms of muscularity, they're kind of middle of the road. I think if you get your hands on them, that's the difference between the two. The young lady there closer to the pole in third has got just a notch more shape in her weather, particularly right out of its shoulder. I think he's just a notch better in his loin shape as well. I think we get down to fifth as a lamb that some people may say, well, he's not the most attractive because of his fit job, and I'll tell you, he's not. But comparison to the lambs behind him, he's so much better built and so much more muscular that he just needs to end up in the slot. And then as you start to watch me judge too many shows, I got to have 2 things to make them move up, and if you're minus one of them pretty dramatically, you're going to end up on the wrong end. And in this case, these 3 are running out of muscle for me. If they'd be a little bit stouter featured, any of them, we can maybe think about moving them up a space or 2. But with that being said, let's congratulate your lightweight market lambs here on our lightweight exhibitors on a really nice set of market lambs.
Results of Class 1 market lambs. Congratulations. First place, Gabriel Price. Second place, Ophelia Pulley. Third place, Brianna Blake. Fourth place, Elizabeth Blake. Fifth place, Emma Reber. Sixth place, Evan Castilla. Seventh place, Caroline Dexter. Eighth place, Logan Spurgon. Entering the show ring at this time is our second class of market lambs, weighing 127 to 129.
All right, in our second full class of market lambs here, I think it just kind of logically sorts out in my mind, but I guarantee you the differences are not as dramatic as or drastic as what we saw in the last class. I think we got two wethers on the top end that are just built better than everybody else. I think they're more carcass oriented to go with that, so I think you just got to sort this duo on top, and then you can kind of wade your way through the rest of it. I think the wether that wins for me so much better to the touch in terms of rack shape and his loin edge and his amount of finish that he has. I think that's where he really excels. Then on the profile, he's a little bit more up-fronted. He's a little bit better out of his top line and down out of his hip as well. Now, when this wether gets on the move, I need to redesign his hind leg because he really wants to drag those hocks because he's not got enough flex there. And I'll be honest, the wether behind him is not only better there, but also just has more true dimension from behind as well. But the wether in second does disappoint me when I get my hands on him. He's a little plainer in his top shape, and then when we put him on the profile, I just don't like the way he holds his top line together. We need to level him up and make him a little bit stronger out of his shoulder for sure. But those two kind of come into first and second, and then like I said, after that, we do have quite a bit of differences in terms of type and kind. The wether in third is a little bit more of a challenge to evaluate because just looking at him, he's got the hernia down there, so that throws him off in terms of balance. But I think if you could just cover that up and just look at the sheep, otherwise, he's pretty easily the third best lamb in here. One is terms of carcass ability and his cut ability, then the second part of that is his balance and look is so much better than those that are behind him other than that. But then yet again, he's not as near as cool and look in his look and balance as those in front of him, so he kind of slips into third. The brown tinted wether here in the four spot, one that kind of hit me hard when he come in because he's got that right kind of body that we're looking for and his rib cage is right. But you start to study him, I think he's quite a bit plainer shape than everybody else that's in front of him. I think more importantly, we need to lean him up. He's quite a bit heavier finished than everybody else in here, and I do question his cut ability. But luckily for him, he's got enough product and dimension to go and kind of outdo those two behind him. The two that are in fifth and sixth here kind of follow suit. Once again, they're pretty sheep, they're long body, but we just don't have enough muscle in either one of them to get them moved up any farther. Nice set of lambs, though, all the way through. Let's give this set of exhibitors a nice hand.
Okay, first and second, please go to a pin. Results of Class 2 Market Lambs. First place and congratulations, Audrey Harnell. Second place, Madison Canyon. Third place, Mackenzie Jensen. Fourth place, Brooke Rowan. Fifth place, Caroline Dexter. Sixth place, Kaylee Blake. Entering the show ring at this time is our third class of market lambs, ranging in weight from 132 to 139.
Well, these are the kind of classes that I like to judge. I'll be honest, in terms of quality, the depth goes all the way through. And these top two here are some specimens now. For those that have maybe not as much experience and others outside the ring, these are the kind of sheep that when you start looking at state fairs, you start to see up there towards the top end of a class, let alone at a county fair. So they're a little different kind. I think if you start to study them in terms of build and power, they're pretty overwhelming compared to everybody else. I think the other four are nice sheep, but just a little different kind when you get up here. I think when you discuss these two sheep, there's some minor differences, and like I said, they're kind of on the top end of things here by some margin. The weather that wins for me, I think, though, the big differences are his handling and his touch in terms of his rack and his loin shape. I think you get your hands on him, he's just so much firmer down his top. But I'll tell you, probably the biggest difference is just the way he gets out and walks and keeps himself collected. You study this sheep in terms of his angles and the way his joints are made and the way he gets out on the move. He's pretty impressive, and it's one thing to make one stout and powerful. It's another one to keep one built like this and still have a move like that. The weather in second, he's going to be competitive and probably already has been at some other shows if that young lady's had him out. He's got a tremendous upper hip. If you put his upper hip on the sheep that wins, you're talking about a sheep that's in contention to win state fairs, not just play along. That guy's back end is just extremely impressive. He's big twisted. His lower leg shape is awfully good. I think you study his advantages. He's a notch longer bodied for sure. I think his neck set's a little higher on top of his shoulder. But when I get my hands on him, he's just a little spongy to the touch. His loin shape's just not quite as good, but that's being awfully critical. And then same thing down to his pasterns and his rear legs. Just doesn't move out the same athleticism as that one that wins. But that's an awfully good sheep. So those two should, be very complimented on how good a sheep they brought. I appreciate those two. I think third and fourth are two sheep that in terms of similarities, once again, they're kind of like the two that win the class, but they just kind of dial it back a notch. The weather in third's a lot better handling. I think when the young lady gets him stacked up and gets embraced, he's so much firmer to the touch and cut abilities there. The sheep in fourth has got a little bit bigger hip and a little bit thicker ended, but you get your hands on him, he's just a notch disappointing. So it's almost a similar setup as what we had, just not quite there in terms of quality for those two. But those are two nice sheep that when I saw them come in the ring, because they were in before the other two, I was like, oh, we got two good ones here to win with, and then they ran into the buzzsaw of those other two. I'll tell you the same thing can be said of the young man in the green. That sheep there is awfully good in terms of muscle and stoutness. I'd love to see him show up at a lot of county fairs in Kansas just because of his muscle and potential carcass value. He just kind of runs out of things in terms of balance. He's really low in terms of his neck-shoulder junction. He wants to get his spine up, and then he's got some structural challenges in his hip and hind leg when he gets out and moves. Just a little too restricted, but that's an awful muscular sheep. The one that runs out to class then is a little frailer made, but still a long body, nice balanced sheep that's got some good value to it. Just runs into such a competitive class here that it's hard to get him up any higher. Let's give those exhibitors a nice hand.
Results of our Class 3 Market Lambs. First place, and congratulations, Taya Winden. Second, Morgan Barba. Third, Heidi Price. Fourth, Emma Waker. Fifth, Cody Harnell. Sixth, Jake Kellogg. Please remember, if you're first or second, you need to pin your lamb in the show ring. First and second must stay in the show ring. Entering the show ring at this time is our Class 4 market lambs. Lambs ranging in weight from 140 pounds to 150 pounds.
Well, apparently these people took offense and wanted even a better class this time around. Those top 4 sheep are really good, and I'll be honest, I feel bad for the young man because I saw that sheep in showmanship earlier and thought, man, this one's going to be in to play it, and he ends up 4th in the class. I mean, that just tells you how good these others are, I guess, in my mindset as we do that. And then I think really they kind of sort out, except for second and third is where I think the decision has to lie. And those 2 sheep there just kind of split the parts of my the class winner apart, and so that's what makes it hard for me. Once again, you study that class winner there, though, and try to find a place that there's too many flaws in him other than maybe a nickel of maturity. I think you're going to be hard-pressed to find too much. He's huge top, he's big-ended, he's sound, he's good-footed. He has that extra fuzz and a little aesthetic value to go with it. He walks correctly. Might be a little soft in his pasterns, but I think he's pretty acceptable there. Like I said, if we could just clean up maybe his chest floor ever so slightly, you might see me thinking he's a great one, but I still say he's stinking good. So I think in second and third, though, we got sheep, like I said, that go back and forth on their pieces that I like. The one in second, I love him from his last rib back. He kind of has the same hip structure and dimension from behind that my class winner does. I think you study his body type. He's really round and opened up in his rib cage. Young lady does a nice job getting him stacked up, but he does get a little piecey right out of his shoulder there. If you get your hands on him, you'll see that at the top of his shoulder is a little opened up, and he pinches in right behind there ever so slightly. And he's a nickel softer than the one that's in third, but I don't think it's unacceptable by any stretch. The one in third's probably the hardest one to read because he just doesn't grab your eye, but you start looking at him. He's extremely good to the touch. He's really good and up-fronted, but he does pinch into his hip ever so slightly, and then you get on the side, he wants to run up into his flank ever a little bit as well. So even though he's really got the front end we're trying to build, he doesn't maybe necessarily bounce out any better, but I don't think any of them I would say is better balanced than the rest of them in that top trio. I think there's just different pieces that we can appreciate, but all 3 of those are really good ones. Like I said, the Young Man's Weather, here's one that I think has a great shape to him. If you get your hands on him, he's fresh and he's toned up really well. You get behind him, though, he's just not as dimensional. There's just not as much power there to go with it. So he kind of logically just ends up in third. And then I'd like to fix his spine, like I mentioned earlier. I think if we could loosen up his top line when particularly gets on the move, that would be good. Then we get down here in the 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th spots. You're going to see sheep that all have some composition issues. They're either a little too heavy conditioned or they don't have enough muscle to get them up any farther. But some of them are still nice sheep. They're just a little past their end point today as much as anything. So let's congratulate all these showmen on an awfully competitive class.
First and second, please go over to be pinned and stay in the arena. First and second, please go over to be pinned. Results of Class 4 Market Lambs. Congratulations in first place to Teo Winden. Second, Chloe Mucci. Third, Heidi Price. Fourth, Gabriel Price. Fifth, Emma Waker. Sixth, Morgan Barba. Seventh, Jordan Kellogg. Entering the ring at this time is our Market Class 5. Market Lambs weighing 156 to 186.
The heavyweights didn't disappoint as well after a run of real some quality classes here. Young ladies' weather kind of outdoes everybody, though, because at this weight range, one of the first things I look for is composition. So that means you got to have enough muscle and still keep your maturity and amount of finish all in check, and that weather does it pretty intently compared to everybody else. He's not as extended as either one of the sheep in terms of length of body that's going to follow him, but I think in terms of a true balance and skeletal build to go with that much power, he's the one you got to use and don't look back. I think your decision comes in his second and third. Both of these sheep are probably past their ideal in terms of both age and in terms of finish. I think the weather in seconds is going to take a better picture. I won't lie. He's more up-fronted. He's better in terms of the relationship from his chest floor back to his flank. You study his hip structure, both standing and on the move. I like him quite a bit better. He gets too spongy to the touch for me, but obviously we're in a heavyweights, and so all of them actually from here down are a little bit soft to the touch. But realistically, if we could lean him up, he might be able to start pushing the class winner, but he's just a little too far gone for me in regards to that. But that's a nice sheep in terms of pattern and balance. The one in third actually handles harder, but I don't think he's any leaner than the one we just described, just because the kind of finish that he actually has. He's a little bolder in his rib cage, maybe a little bit bolder in his rack because of that. But you start to study him on the profile, he's really jammed up in his neck and his shoulder. He's too upright in his shoulder. Then he moves a little stiff and rigid out of his rear third as well. But that's an awful nice sheep. I would just like to see him about 10, 15 pounds ago. Then we got two sheep that round out the class that probably have the most composition issues. They're both just little overdone for me without as much muscle shape. If we could lean him up and make him a little bit more competitive if we did that first and foremost. So nice set of sheep in our heavyweight class. Let's give them a nice round of applause as we finish up your classes.
Results of Market Lamb Class 5. Congratulations in first place, Caden Healy Mitchell. Second place, Chloe Mucci. Third place, Caden Haley Mitchell. Fourth place, Braden Torgensen. Fifth place, Haley Joe Torgensen. We will be moving into our champion drive. We're going to be bringing in just the first place market lambs out of class 1 through 5. First place. First place market lamb in class 1 are lightweight, weighed 124, Gabriel Price. Market class 2, first place lamb weighing 129, Audrey Harrell. Market class 3, weighing 136, Taya Winden. Market class 4, first place lamb, weighing 142, Taya Winden. Class 5, first place lamb, weighing 157, Caden Haley Mitchell. Let's put our hands together for these showmen.
Well, we got an awful nice set of sheep out here representing all 5 classes. It's definitely one of those things that this is when I like it, is when I get in here and now I get to find one that I like. It's not about finding one that's just barely good enough. And I mentioned that in class, that, 4 or 5 classes are deep in class sometimes. There's some sheep that could win a lot of other county fairs that I go to. So definitely something to be commended on as a group of showmen to not only come out and be good showmen like we had in that side of the show, but then can follow it up with this kind of sheep at the back end of it. Not going to make a lot of do about the different type of sheep out here, though, because we already talked about them, and hopefully you picked up on the things that I like. There's about 3 of them out here in the class winners that are kind of in play, and then there's a couple of them that come in second behind each one of those that are awfully good as well. So if I had to pick a top 5, I think those 5 sheep would come out pretty easily. I think Sorting Your Grand and Reserve maybe gets a little tighter for me once we get them out here and start to do some direct comparisons. So I think the big thing is I want to commend everybody on, and I made mention of this yesterday in the GOAT show. The young people out here, I just hope you can say thank you to everybody that helped make this event possible and that are going to continue to do so for the rest of the fair. It would have been very easy to have money invested in these kind of animals and been told 2 weeks ago, sorry, we weren't going to get to show. It just could have happened very diligently like that. We had at least one county fair in Kansas where the young people did not get to show at all this year. They didn't have a virtual option even. They just canceled their fair entirely. Several others changed their format, went virtual, which I think defeats a lot of the purpose. And then finally there was a few that went on like nobody had anything going on differently. So we did have a few. I think whatever it took to get this together, your extension agents, your volunteers, your support, and then also the financial support, because this year is one of those that have been really easy for some businesses to pull back and not to support you at the premium auction or for other awards and prizes or anything that they may do so throughout the fair. So if you see anybody that had any kind of input to this event, make sure to thank them so that way you got lucky to know that you had it done. I'm grateful to be out here. I maybe said this yesterday, judging goats yesterday and coming to a county fair today and judging the sheep today, it's about the most normal I felt in the last 4 to 5 months, I'll be honest. For me, this is what normal is. This is my livelihood. I've been judging fairs for 25 years now. I've judged in 20 states. I've even been in 15 different counties just here in Colorado, so I've been spending a lot of time out here, and I enjoy it thoroughly every time. So I appreciate the invite. But outsiders now that are looking in, congratulate your young people on a great job. We'll go pick you a champion reserve.
Hey, congratulations to our grand champion market lamb coming out of class 4, Taya Winden. Our reserve grand champion coming out of class 5, Caden Haley Mitchell. This is our first class in the breeding sheep show.
Single entry here in our Hamp Ewe Lamb class with a female that's just pretty functional in terms of her kind. If you study her in terms of structure and her body type, she's going to be awfully productive for a long time. If we want to be critical, her top line's a little soft for me and gets a little easy, particularly we get on the move. And then she's just a little thicker heighted, but that's a little typical of that breed type. So just a nice functional female for this young lady.
Results of our Hampshire breeding ewe lamb class. First place and congratulations, Emily Needham. Class 2. Other meat breeds, ewe lamb.
Another single entry here with a really nice feminine ewe lamb. I love the front third of her body in terms of her neck and her shoulder shape. I think she's adequate in terms of muscle and growth as well, but one that definitely could be powered up a little bit out of her hip. But I think being as youthful as she is, she's got a bright future for this young lady.
Congratulations to Ashley Clement on her first place Other Meat Breeds ewe lamb. Our next class is the Jacob division. We have one entry in the ewe lamb.
It's a single entry here in our Jacob Ewe Lamb class, and I think once again, if we could figure out when her birthday was, I think we just looking at her in terms of type, I think she's probably got enough growth and performance relative to her size. I think in terms of functionality, she's got some nice pieces as well. It'd be nice to compare her to the older ewes that'll be coming out here in a second. Nice ewe for the young man.
Results of the ewe lamb Jacob class. First, Benjamin Daughtery. Entering the show ring now is 2 entries in our Jacob yearling ewe and older.
two nice yearling plus ewe lambs or ewes here. I think in terms of usefulness, once again, relative to the breed, you got to be appreciative of. I think there's a touch more natural base width and dimension in the darker fibered ewe there that's going to win with the young man. If you study her chest floor and just work your way up, that dimension goes all the way to the top side of her skeleton. I think her body type's a little bit better in terms of her rib cage as well. They're very similar in terms of their structural design and pattern for sure. I do think the ewe lamb or ewe that's in second's a notch longer and a notch more extended, maybe just a bit bigger period in terms of kind. I think you study her though, she's just a notch frailer made all the way through. Two nice ewes though for this pair of exhibitors.
Results of our Jacob yearling and older ewe lamb, first and second to Benjamin Daughtery. We will now select a champion Jacob ewe. We need first place.
I think as we get into our champion lineup for these, obviously, I think it's one exhibitor that's got all three of them, so commend him on coming in and bringing out a breed that's not highly represented as much as some as at other county fairs for sure. I think we got our two class winners are the ones that we're going to play with in terms of contention here. I think you study the ewe lamb, obviously, she's got a nice future in front of her versus the yearling plus that's already almost to production. So we got some value here that's a little different just because of the stage of development. I'm going to go and use the older ewe for your champion and the ewe lamb for reserve.
Jacob ewe champion drive. Congratulations to Benjamin Daughtery. Champion is his yearling ewe. Reserve is his ewe lamb. Our next class is other wool breeds, ram lamb, 1 entry.
Just a single entry here in this ram lamb class. I think with a buck lamb that can be really appreciated. I think his skeletal makeup is nice. His feet and leg structure is put together the way it's supposed to be. He's got enough body and performance in him as well, and I think his fleece quality is definitely adequate to go with that. So just a nice complete sheep for this young lady.
Results for Class 5. Other wool breeds ram lamb. First, Ellie Carvis. Entering the ring at this time is Class 6. Other wool breeds ewe lamb, 1 entry.
Another single entry here with a Lincoln female that, in terms of just, once again, skeletal makeup and kind, is very useful. I think relative to age has a nice performance, and once again just kind of ties the nice fleece to go with it as well. So just a nice complete sheep for the young lady here in this project.
Results of Class 5, or Class 6, other wool breeds ewe lamb. First, Iris Fledge. Next in the ring is Class 7, Slick Sheared Ram Lamb, 1 entry.
Just a single entry here in the buck lamb class with a guy that I really like from the side in terms of extension and length of body. I think his skeletal makeup is nice. I think I'd like to see him just cracked open a little bit in his skeleton with a notch more dimension. But probably outside of that, my biggest concern is actually just making sure he's functional. His testicle, he's got a little bit of swelling and tightness back there that I noticed just walking in. So hopefully he can come out of it and is actually functional. But since the buck lamb, we'll just give him the benefit of the doubt till he's tested. But definitely a nice sheep for this young lady.
Results of Class 7, Show Lamb Slick Shear Ram Lamb. First, Caden Haley Mitchell. Entering the ring at this time is Class 8, Show Lamb Slick Sheared Ewe Lamb, 2 entries.
A really nice pair of ewe lambs here in the slick shear class that are quite a bit different in terms of their age, and obviously that's always a challenge no matter what, because you don't know how much the differences of some of the advantages come in just the line of maturity. But I think he said the young lady's ewe to the right for me here, just so much better in terms of her skeleton. I think her rib cage is set in better in terms of both the way it ties into her chest and her flank, but it was also just better in its shape. And then obviously she's got extra mass. But I think if we give this other one some time to catch up in terms of age, I think you'd probably not see such a drastic advantage there. But she is quite a bit frailer in her makeup. She's a little bit flatter bodied. And then I'd like to redesign her hip and hind leg a little bit. But those are still 2 nice ewe lambs for both those exhibitors. Let's give them a nice hand.
Results for Class 8, Show Lamb Slick Sheared Ewe Lamb. First, Caden Haley Mitchell. Second, Avery Lawrence. Entering the ring now is Class 9, Show Lamb Slick Sheared Yearling Ewe, 2 entries.
In our yearling slick class, we got 2 females once again that I think both have the production traits we're basically looking for. Just so much more mass and power with the young lady to my right once again, and it starts at the ground and from there on up. Just so much power and still at the same time all as good a balance and good as structured as the one in second. One in second's maybe a nickel more elegant and up front. She's just a niche more youthful in terms of her look, but just gives up so much mass, power, and performance, kind of ends up in a logical second.
Results of Class 9, Show Lamb Slick Sheared Yearling Ewe. First, Caden Caden Haley Mitchell. Second, Caroline Dexter. Next in the show ring will be the Show Lamb U Champion Drive. We need first and second back from class 8 and 9. Just first place in class 8 and 9.
In our champion at Weather Dam type class here, I think you got two females that represent the ewe lamb and the yearling ewe class that are the two that are in contention for sure. I think you study them in terms of kind and quality, you're going to appreciate both of them a lot. I think the question mark is for most people is that, how much benefit of the doubt do you give the ewe lamb for not being quite as old, obviously, or how much do you let the yearling ewe off the hook for being a little bit more mature because of that? Because obviously, she should be getting close to production at this stage of the game, and so being in show shape's a little bit harder for her. So I think both of them are really good, though. Both of them are got some neat pieces, depending on the pedigrees they're matched up with in the barns. Where the young lady takes them home is going to probably determine which one actually has the most true value. To me, the ewe lamb, in terms of her balanced look and just general kind, has a nickel more pieces to her that I think we're going to like to use. So I'm going to use the ewe lamb for champion out of this duo. We'll use the yearling as reserve.
Results of the champion Show Lamb U division. Champion Caden Haley Mitchell with her ewe lamb. Reserve champion Caden Haley Mitchell with her yearling ewe. Next in the ring is class 10 white hand spinning natural colored sheep ram lamb, 1 entry.
Really nice single entry right here again in this class. I think the little buck lamb has tons of potential. Once again, he's growing well. His fleece is adequate. I think structurally he's functional, even though that's where I'd probably start to pick on him. Gets a nickel in at his knee and in his hock both when we start studying him coming and going. But other than that, just a nice production-oriented sheep for this young lady.
Results of the white hand spinning natural colored sheep ram lamb class. First, Emma Goebel. Entering the ring next is class 11, white hand spinning natural colored sheep ram, 1 entry.
kind of an interesting specimen here for this breed type, I'll be honest. I think you study him, most wool breed sheep start to give up a lot of muscle and a lot of stoutness and dimension, but I think he kind of brings the pieces to the table, plus keeping the fleece quality in check. So nice single entry for this young lady.
Results of Class 11, hand spinning, natural colored sheep, rams. First place, Mackenzie Jensen. Entering the ring now is our champion drive for the natural colored ram. 2 entries.
Pick the champion buck out of this breed type. I think it's a pretty logical choice for me with the mature or yearling buck that just came in. Once again, stoutness and power kind of overwhelms everybody, and even though I think this is his offspring behind him from what I'm being told, that offspring's going to have a hard time catching up with daddy, I think. So we're going to go to use the big buck for champion, the little buck for reserve.
Results of our white hand spinning natural colored sheep champion ram drive. Champion goes to the aged ram Mackenzie Jensen. Reserve champion goes to the ram lamb Emma Goebel. Entering the ring now is Class 11, natural colored white hand spinning ewe lamb, 1 entry. After the completion of Class 11, we will have our grand champion ewe drive. So please make sure all the ewes that were champion are in the holding area.
Just another nice single entry ewe lamb here to wrap up our individual classes, and pretty typical the other ones we've seen that have this remakeup that we have put through the ring. Just a nice production-oriented sheep that still has a nice fleece to her, functional enough in terms of her skeleton and kind for sure. So a nice ewe lamb for this young lady.
Results of Class 11, natural colored and hand spinning ewe lamb, first Mackenzie Jensen. We are moving on to our grand champion ewe drive. From the Hampshire division, Emily Needham. From the other meat breeds division, Ashley Clement. From the Jacob ewes, Benjamin Daughtery. From the other wool breeds, Iris Fledge. From the show lamb Slick Sheared, Caden Healy Mitchell. From the white hand spinning natural colored sheep, Mackenzie Jensen. From the natural colored, Mackenzie Jensen. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
because after amount of time of being in production, you start to understand why all those traits that us as judges talk about actually have, implications back home as well. So you got to, just, decide that this is way more important. Actually, as much as I love the market shows, I wish we had double or triple the amount of people showing in the such a different mentality. It really doesn't go together. But as an overall, we always have to do this. It's one of those things we do. So this is more preference to me and how they plug into that. So if you want to know how it is, it's really where do I think they fit with that. So we're going to keep it short. We'll go pick you a champion, reserve you. But let's congratulate all those exhibitors on a job well done.
Okay, entering the ring for the grand champion Ram, we have other wool breeds. Ram Lamb, Ellie Carvis. Show Lamb Slick Sheared, Ram Lamb, Caden Healy Mitchell. White Hand Spending Natural Colored Sheep, Mackenzie Jensen.
Once again, when we have things figured out, I always don't think there's reason to draw it out any longer than we have to. I think it's interesting, once again, the types that we have out here on the buck side of things, and I just wish we had more of them realistically, but also we probably should be leaving them home right about now if you're going to be doing a fall breeding season, so it's always kind of a challenge to talk people into bringing bucks to a fair at this stage of the game. I think in terms of, once again, the mindset is which one's the best for the breed is how these are going to get stacked up in terms of champion reserve, and I think there's one that does that better than others, so we'll go pick you those out right now.
Results from our grand champion drive. The champion goes to Mackenzie Jensen with her White Hand Spending Natural Colored. Reserve grand goes to Caden Healy Mitchell with her Show Lamb Slick Sheared. Our next class is our futurity class. First year futurity, we have 2 entries.
Ooh. With this being a futurity class, this is going to be intriguing. I'd like to know the results in the next 2 years if these young ladies keep it together and continue the project, because once again, we got breed types of total difference out here, and it's just, in my mind, it's really close because of how they have pros and cons relative to their breed. I like the slick shorn ewe lamb just in terms of structure as much as anything. You study her at the ground in terms of her feet and legs and the way she's made in her top line. I think she's got some potential there. I think the natural colored type sheep here, though, has some value in terms of her own kind because of performance, body type, and some things as well. So relative to what they do for projects is still yet to be seen, but both of these young ladies got a nice job started.
Results of our first year futurity class. First, Avery Lawrence. Second, Mackenzie Jensen. We do not have any second year futurity. We are moving on to third year futurity, where there is 2 entries. The third year futurity is where these members have raised these ewes and they're bringing them back, showing production with a lamb at their side.
Well, like I've kind of made mention to, I really don't even want to pick a winner here, because by taking this project through this amount of time and effort, I hope they both kind of consider themselves to be winners, just because, once again, a lot of young people don't ever do this, and I think this is where validity to the projects come out. So we're going to go ahead and use this group over here. I think the consistency of that mom and with her offspring and so forth, and having a pair at her side is definitely an advantage in my mind. The consistency over here with the Jacobs are awfully nice as well. I just think we have a little quality difference between the 2 sets, but both of them should be commended on a job well done. Thanks once again for having me.
Results of the third year futurity project. First, Ashley Clement. Second, Benjamin Daughtery. This concludes the 2020 Adams County Sheep Show. Thank you for tuning in.